Alright, so what are we going to be doing today? Well, we are going to be working on the Alfa Romeo 147 GTA. I have recently been trying to help someone in the club to replace their crank sensor. We managed to find that it was the crank sensor that was the problem. The car would start and run for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then the car would basically just suddenly cut out and throw an engine code. Luckily, that engine code told us that it was actually the crank sensor. So we were trying to replace the crank sensor like yesterday and a couple of weeks ago, and we haven't been successful yet. Now, I have actually done this job before on another club member's 147 GTA, so I know it's possible and I know I can do it, but for some reason the 156 V6 that we were working on is similar engine, similar sort of setup, same crank sensor. For some reason that's a bit different. So I'm actually trying to figure out why it's different, and also probably going to be replacing my crank sensor at the same time and making this video so that you can figure out what to do. So the reason why you haven't really seen much content on the 147 GTA is simply because it's been super reliable. I haven't actually needed to do anything. So the crank sensor is really one of the first things that I've had to do in the last couple of years, really. And I'm also going to be checking out the brake pads while I've got the car jacked up, because again the brake pads are super loud for some reason. After I've done the 330mm brake upgrade, I've put in the Ferodo DS2500 pads, which are actually the same pads as my Lotus Exige, but for some reason they're way louder, especially when they heat up on the 147 GDA. The other thing is I am actually going to upload a video for the 330mm brake upgrade. I wasn't going to do that originally, but I think I've got enough footage and enough photos, and I can do a bit of a voiceover to give you like a little bit of a video on how to do the 330mm upgrade. That job just went way over time, and I was really struggling, and I was trying to get it finished, so I didn't really have time to take all the videos that I wanted to take, but luckily I did manage to get it upgraded, get everything done, and it was brilliant on the last track day that we had at Pukekohe. So yeah, we'll do the crank sensor, and I'll probably check out the brake pads after that as well. Okay, so we've managed to get the car jacked up nice and safely, and I've also removed the wheels. Now, if you're not checking your brakes and doing a bunch of other stuff, then you probably don't need to remove your wheels. So it's probably a little bit easier if you just want to get to the crank sensor. Alright, let's go have a look and see what we're dealing with. Alright everyone, so just getting under the car, and you can immediately see the area that we were going to be working in. So you can see this wire here coming down from the engine bay. It's one of the only wires coming down to the bottom of the car, so it's very easy to spot. And you'll see that there is a metal cover just above this exhaust pipe here. And that metal cover is the thing that we need to remove in order to see the sensor. Now on the 147 GTA, it looks like there is actually quite a bit of room to get your hand kind of between the exhaust pipe and the gearbox here. But on the 156 V6 that I saw, the 2.5 litre V6, I don't think there was enough room. So there could be a bit of a difference here between the 156 V6 and the 147 GTA. I think the GT and the GTA are going to have the same setup, so if you have a GT it should be good news as well. So what we need to do is actually remove this black cover. Hold on, let me focus on that. Yep, so we actually need to remove this black cover that's sitting on the gearbox housing, and that is because we cannot actually back out this other bolt here on the silver cover until we remove this bolt here. So we actually need to get rid of this one first. And then we can get to all of the other bolts for the heat shield cover that protects the crank sensor. Right, so these are just 10mm nuts, so you just need a 10mm spanner. You will also need a 13 soon, because there's actually a little trick in this inside this to get this out. The Alfa Romeo engineers have outdone themselves. But this one is just a 10mm spanner, so you just got to get this one off, and then we'll be able to do the rest of it. So 1, 2, 3, get those 3 off, and then we can remove the black shield here. Right, so with the cover removed, the black cover, you'll see Alfa Romeo has a little trick. So they've actually put a nut and thread combination thing over here so that you can actually get this whole stud off. I guess it's kind of like a spacer thing, so that it holds the heat shield in the right place. But yeah, you have to remove this with a 13mm, and then you can actually start taking this bolt off. So let's get rid of this one. Should be relatively easy. Well, I might have to use the open end on this one. Yep, so it shouldn't be too tight at all. And then we can just remove that. And then we have access to the Allen bolt that's holding on the actual heat shield for the crank sensor. Rightio, right, once you've got that particular weird nut off, we just need a 5mm Allen key or a 5mm hex wrench. And what I've got is just a really long one, which really helps with this particular job. But you know, you can actually just use a bunch of extensions and everything. It's not too hard here. There's 3 of them, so 1, 2, 3. You just have to undo all 3, and then the heat shield should pretty much just come off. Alright, there we go. Not too bad. Not too tight for mine at all. So yeah, just get rid of those, and then we'll be able to have a look at the actual sensor. Right, okay, so this is something I did not remember from last time. So this is an actual bracket that goes onto the gearbox housing. And so you don't actually have to undo this bolt when it's on the car, when it's on the gearbox. You just have to undo it once you pull off the bracket. So that's actually what we were doing wrong with the 156. Okay, and then I think it's a 5mm Allen key to undo that particular bolt that holds the sensor onto the bracket. Okay, Alpha engineers are a little bit smarter than I give them credit for. Well, there you go. It's a little bit oily in there as well. Okay, so it's probably time to change mine anyway. But yeah, interesting. All right, we're going to get this off, and then we'll just have to undo a whole bunch of these little clips that hold the sensor and the wire, and we'll undo the plug on the other side, and then we can start installing the new one. Wow, okay, that's really interesting. Alright, now it's really easy to get this bolt off, because it's completely off the car now, and all we have to do is use our ratchet with the 5mm hex bit, and then it can just come straight off. Wow. Alfa Romeo engineers, eh? Crazy. Yeah, look at that. Very easy now. And, oh, that's a slightly oily crank sensor. Alright, yeah, we'll just undo all those clips. Okay, so in order to get to the plug, you do have to take the intake hose off. I've shown you how to do that millions of times. It's literally this one clip over here. You have to undo the throttle buddy hose clip, and you have to undo this hose clip going into the air filter. And then this box is going to be the one that has the plug that you have to undo. So you just open this one, and it's this plug right here, this brown one. It's really easy to undo. You basically just unclip it on the yellow tab, and then you squeeze both sides, and it comes out. And then you just have to undo all of these little clips that are going down towards the gearbox. There's really only one cable there. So do all of that, and then you take out the sensor. Alright, so here's the old sensor on this side. We're slightly oily. I did clean it off a little bit, and that's the new sensor on the right hand side there. And you just want to compare and make sure that everything is the same length, it's got the same plug, before you actually go ahead and reinstall it. Everything looks good here. It looks like exactly the same thing. I've got a Bosch replacement, so it's probably exactly the same brand as well. Yeah, I think that is a Bosch. That is a Bosch, yes, for the original one. There you go. Made in Germany. Now my one is still good, so I'm going to keep my one for a little bit longer, just as a backup, as a spare. But I will be putting in the new one since we've got everything off. So yeah, basically do the reverse. You want to clip it into the right clips, plug it in obviously, and then put it on the bracket, put the bracket back on the car, and then screw the bracket and the shield, the heat shield back on, and everything should be good to go. With the magic of YouTube, I'll fast forward through that and you'll see it reinstall back on the car. Alright everyone, so this is what it looks like when it's back in position. You just want to make sure that you push these little tabs from the bracket all the way in so that it's nice and seated before you start tightening anything up. Now what's really interesting is that there's actually no hole for the sensor at all. It's actually just, look at that, it's just almost barely touching that cog, those teeth on, I think it's a flywheel, and that's basically how it's able to detect the RPMs or the speed at which your engine is running at, because it's obviously giving you pulses every time it senses those teeth, magnetically sensing those teeth. So normally there's a bit of a hole and a bit of a gap for the sensor to sit in. That's how a lot of Mercs do it. But it's really interesting how this is actually all just kind of open and exposed. But I guess that's why you also need to have all those heat shields and all those other shields that sit on there as well. So it kind of makes sense. Alright, anyway, so install the silver heat shield for the crank sensor first. You can see the bracket actually is held on by two of those bolts. And then we're going to put back in that black flywheel shield. So yeah, let's do all of that. Awesome. Alright everyone, everything's back in. You can see that black metal shield is in. You can see the silver heat shield is in. And the cable routing and everything is all done as well. Alright, we'll quickly go up the top and have a quick look. Yep, so I've routed the cable the same way that it was routed before. There's actually a little tie that ties it to one of these other cables with a conduit. I'm not going to show that because it's really, really difficult to see. And then obviously the plug is plugged back in and everything is seated properly in the right place. So yeah, everything's good to go. So the next thing is basically just to start the engine, make sure it's still working and that you don't have any problems. But there really shouldn't be. So we'll give it a go. Put the intake back on. And then that should be a good job. Alright, awesome. Alright, so can confirm everything's all good. The sensor went in and everything's all fine. The car's running sweet, it's running great. So thanks for joining another episode of Louie's Garage.